dream about Joel Embiid. Let me dream about Giannis Antetokounmpo. If we're going to just dream.
Well, they're going to re-sign Maxey, and they're going to try to bring in a Paul George. Like, that's what they're trying to do now.
Actually, the report was that they were simmering on Paul George. That was the latest report, that they were kind of good off of Paul George.
So the Clutch Points guys, so in Clutch Points, for those of you who don't know, they're basically like an aggregator, kind of like they always report like, so-and-so happened, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, or according to so-and-so, like one of those sites. But Brett Siegel, who works for the site, this is what he had to say. It was, quote, Paul George's situation with the Clippers is very interesting. Should the Clippers decide not to pay George what he wants, it may not be an Eastern Conference team that pursues George. Keep a very close eye on the Warriors regarding George if Klay Thompson is to leave. That's it.
And again, like do I want a guy who's 25 years old? And yeah, of course, but it just doesn't feel like that guy's out there. Right. Now, I know that Paul George has a contract situation, and it feels like he's going to be on the move, so it's logistically plausible to connect him to the Warriors. That doesn't mean he's going to the Warriors. We're just going hypotheticals here, and it does feel like the Warriors themselves, the reason why they haven't made a determination on Chris Paul is they're exploring probably 500 different options. And I do think Paul George is one of them. Whether it's at the bottom, middle, or top of their list, I don't know.
Brett Siegel, national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Sports. This is the first time I heard it. And I looked him up, and he was actually following me, so I'm going to follow him back right now just because I want to figure out who this guy is. Who is he? Who is Brett Siegel? Maybe we could get him on the air. I don't know. But Paul George's situation would keep a very close eye on the Golden State Warriors. So we'll see about that. Anybody interested in Paul George on this team? 888-957-9570.
I'm intrigued. I'm not going to say no to it.
I'm not trading all those assets because I don't believe the Clippers would just say, hey, give me Chris Paul and that $30 million, and we'll figure out the rest. Here goes Paul George. I don't just see them handing that to the Golden State Warriors.
No.
I mean, come on. This is NorCal, SoCal rivalry here, and this is Steve Ballmer heading over Paul George for an expiring Chris Paul. Hell yeah. Who wouldn't do that if you're a Warrior fan? Who would do that? But what if they say, you know what? Forget all that. We want Kuminga too.
I'd probably still end up doing it.
Wow.
You know? I'm reluctant. I'm telling you, I'm reluctant, but like I probably would. I'm like Paul George is a better basketball player currently than Kuminga. Now I know you have to like look down the road past this, but I think the way the Warriors are setting this up, they're not really looking that far down the road. I could be wrong, and I also that means I still have Wiggins, who I can either keep or trade as well. Right? So now I've got some options. I don't think it's one move. I think the Warriors are thinking like we're going to do bang, 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 and it's going to be 2 or 3 moves coupled in. Are you keeping Looney? Are you finding a way? Like if you make this Paul George move, I do believe Klay Thompson's out the window, and they're going to probably guarantee the $30 million for Chris Paul and move him in some sort of a deal.
So Paul George, look at game logs here. So he played 77 games in 2018-19. 2019-20 played to 48 games. 2020-2021 played to 54. 21-22 played to 31 games. 2022-23 played 56 games. Last year he did play 74 in a contract year. And I'm looking at the percentages here. Not bad for PG. 41% from 3. 47% from the floor. 22.5 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. And look, the James Harden deal, there's no doubt. They were playing a lot. They were playing some good ball before James Harden. Then they started playing better with James Harden. Then they fizzled due to the Kawhi injury and whatnot. Is Paul George, is that a name Warrior fans want here in the Bay Area? Is that a guy you want the Warriors to go all in on? Because
you seem very reluctant.
I don't know how much better you're getting with Paul George on his current roster. Now,
but isn't he let me ask you, isn't he a second ball handler? Isn't he I'm
intrigued with Paul.
Catch and shoot guy? Isn't he a better defender?
I can't stop looking at the playoff shortcurries with Paul George. When I need him to come through for me, he doesn't come through for me.
Yeah, but
it can't just be Curry or bust anymore.
The last 2 playoffs,
Curry's slowing down a little bit too.
I mean, but the last 2,
Curry's slowing down, and he's going to see all that stuff.
But the last 2 playoffs, if he's playing the 2, right? And I hate turning this into a Klay versus Paul George thing because it's not that simple.
He's played the 2 with the Clippers.
He's been better the last multiple years than Klay. Clay's been pretty bad in their playoffs.
Paul George, but what have the Clippers done?
Well,
What did the Clippers do?
I'm not asking him to be my top dog on this team, right?
The Clippers weren't asking him to be the top dog.
But Kawhi was hurt.
But they weren't asking him to be the top dog. And when it was time for him to be the top dog, when it was time for Paul George to be the top dog, what happened?
But they're not asking him to be that here. And again, I'm not saying...
He was never asked to do that with the Clippers. He was a two guy.
The year that he was their top guy, when Kawhi was out, they went to the Western Conference.
But Kawhi got hurt in the series before in like game 5.
To me, it's an upgrade. I think that they're better defensively. Again, these are marginal, but I think they're better defensively. I think they're okay in terms of shooting, but where it is for me is like I think he's another playmaker in the half court. I just think he fits. I think he fits what they want to do. I don't love it. Yes, he's old. Yes, he gets hurt. I agree with you. Like, I'm not the biggest Paul George fan, but Bonte, we're choosing amongst very minimal options here.
And listen, we're just bringing this up because there's a rumor about it. There may be no validity to this rumor whatsoever. But in terms of replacement for Klay, sure, I'm with Paul George, but I'm just calming the waters here because I know the expectations. If you get Paul George championship, Clippers got bounced from the first round the last 2 years, and the year before that they didn't even make the damn playoffs.
Yeah, but
so when Kawhi does get hurt and Paul George is there running the show, they don't do too well. Now as a number 2 option, okay, great, number 2 option, that's awesome. How much better are you if you're the Golden State Warriors with Paul George as your number 2 option?
Yeah, but I don't think that's how you're making moves. Like, you're not making moves.
You're not making moves. No, I know that. No, I'm not no dummy.
I think what they're doing is they're saying, like, Steph, who do you want to play with?
It's the building blocks around those 2 guys. Then you vet out how you build your roster.
So, like,
it's
what
not
if
just
I did
Paul
this?
George.
Let's just say I somehow swung a deal for Paul George, and I still have Wiggins. Now, I can keep Wiggins, all right? And who knows? Maybe you end up keeping him. But, like, if I told you somehow, some way, the Warriors turned this offseason and they got rid of some of the young players and the expiring deals and Wiggins, and you ended up with Lauri Markkanen, Draymond Green, Lauri Markkanen, Paul George, and Steph Curry. Is that not a better offense?
Come on, man.
I don't think it's a great team, but I think they're better than what they were this year.
You know what it's going to cost for Markkanen? You know what it could potentially cost for Paul George?
Bonte, I'm throwing things at them. Then who would you like?
I just want to see how I don't care. I don't really care.
Well, I'll take for example, honestly, then you can get yourself a Monty
Lauri
Morris.
Markkanen, like we just throw these names out here. Lauri Markkanen is going to cost a lot. It's going to cost you Kuminga.
They're all going to cost a lot, but it feels like the Warriors are trying to cook up something big.
You're going to have to gut this roster out. You're going to gut this roster out. Nobody's even watching. I know around these parts, nobody's even watched Markkanen. Is that big getting you better? Like, here's the thing with Markkanen. All right, he's a big that plays on the 3-point line. Now, can he rebound? Sure. But he's a guy who prefers to play on the perimeter. And I get it. The Boston Celtics just won the championship, go a 5-out with Porzingis and Horford and all that stuff. And maybe that's the Warriors are trying. Maybe the Warriors are trying to be a carbon copy of that moving forward here as they evolve. Do they go 5-out? They need 5 3-point shooters. Where does Draymond Green fit in that equation? Is he going to be a shooter like Al Horford from the corner? Can he do that? I believe he can, but we haven't seen it. Markkanen against the West. All right. You got all these bigs in the West patrolling the West. Chet Holmgren, Kathmandu, Naz Reid,
defense can be a problem.
Wemby, Jabari Smith and Şengün down in Houston. We know about Zubac with the Clippers. We know about AD with the LA Lakers. It's Spinoni. We were talking about this on Friday. He plays against AD and he gets erased.
Yeah, but
so I don't think people understand. You know, I don't know how good. I don't know how good. So my suggestion for the Golden State Warriors is you got to figure out what to do with Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins. I'm just not going to play around with the fairy tale that is Paul George because I understand it's going to cost you a lot to get Paul George. And are Warrior fans willing to do that? Are you really willing to see them part ways with all these assets to try to get a Paul George who's 34 years old? I thought the whole point was to get younger and more athletic.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an option that's plausible. And Lauri's a little younger, but I would say that Trayce Jackson-Davis is going to play a role on that team in some fashion. I don't know how, because it clearly feels like Draymond Green alongside Trayce Jackson-Davis does work. And so, like, to me, if you had a starting 5 of TJD, Draymond Green, Lauri, and Paul George, and Steph Curry, I'm just trying to think this out. Steph Curry. That's workable. Like to me, that's what. Is it perfect? No, but I would probably end up gutting a lot of the youth on this team to make that happen. Just because it's a final 2-year run with Steph.
Draymond, TJD in the front court with Laurie, Paul George.
It doesn't look great. I agree.
So now you're playing 3-on-5 offensively again because basically TJD, you're putting him in every pick and roll.
Yeah, but your shooting is better.
Roller.
You have three shooters.
Shooters are a little bit better. It's a little bit better.
I think people are going to honor the playmaking and the playmaking off the floor. I believe Paul George could set up Steph. He could set up others. You got Draymond as your point.
I got to stop. This marketed at Paul George thing.
I'm just throwing things out. I'm trying to give you solutions.
I know. This ain't a solution. This is dreamland.
So then what is your solution?
This is a fairy tale. This is a fairy tale. My solution is to figure out what the hell is going on with Andrew Wiggins. All right? And then you figure out what you're going to do.
He's out the door.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that if he's out the door or not.
It sure feels like it.
You don't know that. Who's going to trade for him? What type of value you're going to get for him? You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about point of attack defenders. Mm-hmm. Well, Wiggins right now is your best point of attack defender. So if we're talking about defending at the point of attack, now you're getting rid of one of your better shooters and one of your better point of attack defenders. See, what I'm starting to come to is with the Golden State Warriors is that they may have to build not for next season, but for the year after. This may be a 2-year process here because right now you're in no man's land. You're in the second apron. You're paying the most tax. You just lost to the play and got blown out in Sacramento. Klay Thompson's older. Chris Paul, you got that extension for the $30 million. You could figure out what to do with him. But how can you get younger when the whole league's trying to get younger? You're going to need to replace your shooting if Klay Thompson walks. If you trade Wiggins for whoever, and please don't tell me that you're going to trade Wiggins for Paul George and Laurie Marketing. It's going to take a lot more to trade for those two guys than Andrew Wiggins. I don't know. I don't like this. May be a 2-year process.
I just have a hard time feeling that the Warriors are all of a sudden going to throttle down with 2 years left of Steph Curry. They're so knee deep in their financial situation. To me, they're going full speed ahead at the wall, and there's only one way that this thing ends. It just today. Now they might swing and miss on all these trades, and to your point, they don't have the package to even execute one, let alone multiple deals.
Right.
But I'm of the nature, I think they're going to swing big. I think they're trying to swing big, and I think there's a reason why they've been negotiating with Chris Paul to build out that extra, week or so of flexibility on the $30 million guarantee because they're looking around and they're saying to themselves, we need that $30 million trade chip because there are other teams out there that want that expiring deal, and there are other teams that are going to be kind of screwed where the Warriors are and maybe don't have the financial flexibility and need to get out from underneath that apron. So it's not like these are all very unlikely scenarios.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to get on you for throwing these hypotheticals out. I'm just trying to make sense of them, right? So I'm trying to think about the other team here, not just our team. I'm trying to think, would the Clippers be willing to accept Chris Paul back? Because we know they try to get a point guard, but you still have James Harden, you still have Kawhi Leonard.
Signing trades happen all the time.
Signing trades happen all the time.
They do.
But with the Clippers,
because teams are limited.
Yeah, but would the Clippers be willing to do business with the Golden State Warriors in a sign and trade right
now? Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, I can go around the league. These guys are all required when those teams had very little cap room and you are forced into a sign and trade situation because you either are getting zero assets for the player or you're getting something back in return.
Don't you think the Clippers could go find better assets elsewhere than
Paul George only
Chris
wants
Paul?
to play somewhere, like that's where the players do have some power. When you're on the high end of free agency and you're a coveted player, you do have a little more wiggle room than, let's say, a Malik Monk.
Do we know that Paul George wants to play with the Golden State Warriors?
No, I'm just spitballing.
Right.
I'm going off the report.
Right. The report. And again, I'm looking at the report too. And I credibility matters to me. I don't know who Brett Siegel is. Can we get him on the air? Where did he hear this from? Where did he come up with it? Is he talking to agents? Is agents floating that out there? Because I don't know who he is. Paul George just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, I think Paul George has been a logical, someone that the Warriors probably circled multiple years ago and have been trying to, finesse for quite some time. And they know what their situation is. Like, they know their biggest need right now is a bigger bodied number 2 alongside Steph Curry.
You need a playmaker.
And is he older? Absolutely he's older. Is he hurt a lot? Absolutely he is. But when I look around the league, I'd rather have Paul George than, let's say, Zach LaVine currently for the Warriors, for what the Warriors are looking for.
No doubt.
I don't think he's the ultimate answer, but I do believe he solves some of their issues, and he's a start.
Paul George with the player option. If he accepts a player option, he'll be making $48.7 million. $48.7 million. Now, again, this is a report from, what's his name again? Brett Siegel. Brett Siegel. Brett Siegel, national NBA insider reporter for Clutch Sports. I've never heard of him. He follows nobody, apparently. That's what I'm looking at right now. I haven't heard anything from Chris Haynes. Haven't heard anything from Shams Charania. Now, here's a question, 408. Why not trade for Jimmy Butler?
I suggested Jimmy Butler about a week ago. I would love to have Jimmy Butler. I think, he comes with his own injury history, especially of recent, and unlike Paul George, has a odd locker room dynamic history. Everywhere he goes, it starts off good, and then it ends up being bad. But again, this is where we go back to, I think people need to come to the grips with everyone we're trading for is going to have some flaws, whether it be character, personal,
age,
professional, age injury history, or maybe they don't play defense.
Whew. Jimmy Butler making a lot of money.
I'm interested in, I'm going to be real with you. There is a part of me, it's like, playoff Jimmy, in terms of defense and attitude.
How's that going to fly in the Western Conference, though?
I don't know.
Because every time they play the West, they get smoked. They get smoked in Miami. It's one thing to play against the East and try to punk those guys.
And he wants a new deal. There's other parts of
this guy, Jimmy Butler's making $48.7 this year. He's got a player option at the age of 36 for $52 million. $52 million for a 36-year-old Jimmy Butler. Now, do your defense get better at the point of attack? Absolutely. Is Jimmy the best shooter? No.
But he does get to the free throw line a lot.
He's a streaky shooter.
And he's rugged, and I think that he fits. He fits the Draymond profile for defense.
But does he fit the read and react offense?
Probably not.
He's going to hold the ball a lot,
He's a mid-range
guy,
yes.
So I almost think the Warriors, my thought
but again,
process
this
with
is
the
where
Warriors.
You've got flawed guys.
Yeah, my thought process with the Warriors, because I'm not high on any of these guys, to be honest with you. Like Paul George doesn't move me. Jimmy Butler doesn't move me. I almost feel like you have to build for not this season, but the year after.
I just don't see them taking a step back.
I don't see it happening either, but I almost feel like that's the most logical scenario here. And get your books in order.
Well, okay, so get your books in order. It's interesting. I think one of the big things that people aren't talking enough about is if they keep Kuminga, they're going to pay him $30 million. Now, how does that affect your books as you move forward, right? So if you decide you're keeping Kuminga, a part of that decision is, well, now it's not just I'm keeping Kuminga, it's I'm paying Kuminga, and I don't know how much I'm paying him. How much am I, how much am I looking down the line? And I'm saying, okay, I'm projecting he will become this type of a player. I can build the team with him making X amount. He might be one of my more high paid players. There's layers to that decision. And then any team that acquires Kuminga is asking the same questions on the receiving end. Okay, I get Kuminga. I have to know by October 31st, am I extending Kuminga? Otherwise, he becomes a restricted free agent.
So and I'm cool with either or in that situation. I would bet on Kuminga because I think $30 million a year in a couple of years could be a bargain for Jonathan Kuminga, who's only 21 years old, who's getting better and better and better. But do you play that game with the restricted free agency and then risk a team giving him a max deal and then you have to match it? Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's the way to light a fire under JK every single game saying, hey, we haven't paid you yet. But then, again, he may spiral out of control and say, well, trade me. Trade me to a team that wants to pay me. No idea. No idea what's going to happen there. But let's talk more about it. Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors negotiations are frozen right now, and that's where we're talking about Paul George, Lauri Markkanen. I have no idea what's going to happen here in the up. But do the Warriors even have the assets to trade for these guys? I think we need to humble ourselves as Warrior fans. It's going to be a long offseason. We'll see. I'm going to be humble in this one. Hey, let's get to the injury.